statement that they read. If you wouldn't mind giving a copy of it to the court reporter, it won't be officially admitted, but it'll help her in transcribing what you said. It would be helpful for Lori over here. We will go ahead and let's go back on the record. I believe there was a couple who had child issues. I think it's go ahead and take their request.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Stephanie Elizondo, and I'm here with my husband, Arturo. We have two small daughters, ages 2 and 1. We just moved to 1617 Angulo in the Vintage Oaks subdivision 9 weeks ago, and we are requesting an affected person request. This is going to negatively affect our family's quality of life, and I fear for the health of my daughters. To please stop this 3,000-run Vulcan Quarry.
And where were you located?
1617 Angolo, Angolo, and we are just under 3 miles from the site. Elizondo, Elizondo.
All right, thank you. And then anyone else in the middle? Yes, anyone else in the middle?
My name is Stephen Freeman. I live with my wife at 1238 Prairie Den in Vintage Oaks. We live approximately 3.5 miles from the crusher. I am a Vietnam-era combat veteran. I was exposed to Agent Orange during my tour in Vietnam. Herbicides have been shown to cause respiratory trouble in humans. I have significant respiratory difficulties, usually requiring medical intervention and or hospitalization. I do believe that the airborne pollution will affect my quality of life. I am 69 years old. I also have concern that it will shorten the tenure of my life. I would like to comment on the decision-making process when things involve human subjects. 6 months ago, I retired after a 34-year career as a university professor. The last 14 years with the Texas A&M University system. I have sat on numerous human subject review committees. The committees generally deal with theoretical models as well as empirical data that will affect human beings. When credible empirical data is available, all theoretical and other models must defer pedagogically to what is credible in terms of empirical data. That is not only pedagogical, that's basic common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Annalisa Peace. I'm representing the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance. We had sent in a letter after the denial of the effective party status. The reason for denial cited by the executive director was that we had not submitted a list of names. We did send in a letter submitted listing the names of our members. The Friends of Dry Canal Creek is also a member group of the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance. So we definitely are requesting party status.
Okay, and I'm sorry, the full name of the line is Greater Edwards.
Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm Gerald Schulte. I represent my wife. My wife and I live at 1014 Ferenczi. Our property is located a mere 2.5 miles from the nearest fence line of the Vulcan Materials property, and our house is located approximately 3.2 miles from the proposed location of the rock crusher. The rock crusher will produce particulate matter air pollution, a pollution shown by studies to be strongly linked to lung cancer, COPD, asthma, emphysema, and heart disease. Particulate matter remains in the air for quite some time and can travel several miles from the source. Since our home is located northeast of the proposed rock crusher, we will be affected by the winds prevailing during the months of July through November. At the age of 76, I am at risk. Breathing dust contaminated air creates congestion in my lungs. Likewise for my wife. The dust-contaminated air will also have a detrimental effect on the vegetables we are trying to grow. After having considered property in Havenwood and in River Chase areas of New Braunfels, both of which are located near rock quarries, my wife and I chose to build in Vintage Oaks for the simple reason there are no rock quarries, or were to be no rock quarries, nearby. You can imagine our disdain when we learned that Vulcan had purchased the property at Farm Road 3009 and Highway 46. We were doing our best to avoid being near a rock quarry. We want to be included, considered as affected parties. Thank you.
Anyone else in the middle?
I'm Cleo Hall, 1225 Herblin Road. Most of my ranch is within the 2-mile radius of the rock crusher or the quarry.
Excuse me, Mr. Holm, weren't you already named a party? Weren't you already named a party?
Were you already named a party?
Yeah, I'm with the Dry Canal Creek.
Okay, so we're trying to find people who were outside that 2-mile radius who want to be named parties. So that's what we're trying to see if they're affected persons. You're already in.
Well, I also have some property that is outside the 2-mile radius.
But you're already in, sir, so this is, you're trying to get in and you're already in.
You're in.
You're in.
Okay. Well, my family came here in 1845, and we've been in the farming and ranching business ever since. And ironically, when I graduated from high school in '56, my first job in the summer before I went to school was cleaning box cars right down the road here at Surtex Material Company. And these box cars were going to be used to load up base material to be shipped out all over the country. I've heard all these good things about Vulcan, how they're going to be my great neighbors. Well, I would like to challenge Vulcan to bring some of their neighbors and put them up here where we can talk to them and ask them about what kind of neighbors the Vulcans really are. And my other concern is, if they put in the quarry, of course, the next thing is going to be, they want a railroad up there. Now, I would like for them to bring some of those people that they used eminent domain to get their right-of-ways to acquire the property to get the railroad in, bring some of those people up here and let them tell us what they feel or how they feel about Vulcan. This is my challenge to Vulcan. I would just like to see if they really as great as they say they are, if they're that perfect neighbor. I challenge you to do it. Thank you.
So anyone else who wants to be a party in the middle who's outside that 2-mile? Okay, so moving over to this side.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael McCullough. I'm here on behalf of the Comal ISD Board of Trustees. I would like to request effective case perfect person's status for Comal ISD. We currently have one planned elementary school site within a 3-mile radius of the proposed quarry, and 2 schools within a 5-mile radius, Smithson Valley High School and Smithson Valley Middle School. And depending on the location of the portable crushing unit, we could have an additional elementary within that 5-mile radius as well. So the population we deal with is of young people. Has been proven to be more susceptible to respiratory issues than the general public. And so on that basis, we're requesting status outside the general public.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Linda Moore, and I'm here on my behalf and behalf of my husband, William Carl Moore, to be an affected party. We were rejected because we live out of the 1-mile area. I live between those 2 schools that already exist in Smithson Valley at 6013 Cornwall Drive, Spring Branch, Texas. As a teacher, we had to keep in kids because there was dust from Africa, smog from South America. I find it ludicrous that a 1-mile radius would be it, like the dust is gonna go to the property line and then just fall down and say, oh, I can't go past here. It doesn't, I mean, I know y'all don't want any, I'm not testifying as any kind of expert, but actually if you go to WeatherBug and just look at the air quality maps, you can spot every single quarry in Comal County and around San Antonio because their air quality for miles around is worse than the other air quality that's further out. And a 2017 USC study on air pollution of high PM 2.5 levels shows that Alzheimer's is especially that people who live in areas with high 2.5 PMs, older women especially, and I'm one of those, may be affected by Alzheimer's. In addition, my husband has Parkinson's and had double pneumonia about 3 or 4 years ago. And so it would affect our quality of life greatly to have this plant near us.
I'm sorry.
Emily Charr.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you. Yes, sir.
I spoke earlier, but I want to speak again because several of my neighbors have spoken up from Vintage Oaks. I moved here in 2008 from Evergreen, Colorado, in the mountains above Denver. My wife and I looked many, many months for a place to move to retire, and we chose Comal County, Vintage Oaks, in the hill country. And I think everyone is entitled to live the good life and live in the hill country. We purchased 2 lots, combined them, and built our dream custom home to preserve the panoramic views that we had. And now we find that we have a quarry nearby, which is very disappointing. We never expected that. There will be transportation issues, there will be water issues, there will be air quality issues, all of which are very important to the residents who live there. And so I urge you to consider those factors in giving this permit. And I especially speak up for those parents who have young children in Smithson Valley Middle School, Smithson Valley High School, and who will have high school students in the new high school at Garden Ridge. Because living there 10 years now, I have seen prevailing winds taking whatever dust is created in those directions. And that could adversely affect all of the outdoor events at those schools. I would suspect that football games might be postponed or whatever, which has great impact in our culture here in South Central Texas. And so I just wanted to make those points. As I mentioned also, I do represent all of the constituents who live in that area as the elected public official for the Edwards-Oxford Authority. They had to get permission from us to drill through the Edwards to get their Trinity well. And I have all the data on that Trinity well. And I can tell you that the huge growth we have in that part of Comal County, water is crucial. And many of these residents have their own well, like I had myself in Colorado. But here I am required at Benny's Oaks to use the Canyon Lake Water Service Company. But they too depend wholly on the Trinity water wells that they have on site. And we're very concerned about future water issues given all the growth we've had. Now, I'm not against growth. I believe, like I said, everybody's entitled to live a good life. And that opportunity is in the hill country in Comal County. But we need to protect those residents who, for various reasons, have chosen to move here from other states, from other places, and build their custom homes. Thank you very much.
And will you identify yourself for the court reporter too, so she knows? Please say your name again, please, sir.
Here, they want your name.
Ron Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Walton.
I represent District 9 on the Edwards-Oxford Authority. That's an elected public position. I'm in my third term there, and I'm a hydrogeologist by background with 35 years service in the federal government, with NOAA, with the Corps of Engineers, and with the U.S. Geological Survey, my last 15 years before moving here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else over here who's seeking party status who hasn't already been addressed or been admitted? No?
Upstairs.
Somebody mind taking the microphone upstairs? There were people upstairs, right? Okay. So if someone would mind setting that up. And have all y'all filled out these forms and sent it out? It's, the color of it doesn't matter, just as long as I've got like name, contact information, that's all I need. Okay. This way? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is, I'm going to have to probably spell my first and last name.
Okay, all right.
My name is Gaspar Rivera Jr. That's Gaspar is G as in golf, A, S, P as in Papa, A-R. Last name Rivera, R-I-V-E-R-A. My home is located at 600 Souls Forest in the Bromfields in the Copper Ridge community. I'm approximately 4 miles from the proposed location of the Vulcan Quarry crusher. I am a retired Army disabled officer. Due to my injuries and conditions I suffered during my 29 years of service during peacetime and combat tours. I moved my family to the Texas Hill Country in 2017 when I purchased my retirement home at 600 Souls Forest. I suffer from an asthmatic condition, which is part of my disability through the VA. Due to the sensitivity of my lungs and potential asthmatic attacks, I decided to move my family to an area that I believe to have better quality air and reduce my risk of suffering these attacks on a regular basis. Being 4 miles from the quarry will potentially continue to diminish my breathing ability, thereby exacerbating my condition, precluding me from having a quality of life that I want and deserve. I have looked forward to spending the rest of my life in this community in a serene and healthy environment. I would like to be able to continue planning projects and activities that I have looked forward to, such as gardening, enjoying the outdoors in my backyard, taking strolls, and someday having my grandkids visit and play in the backyard. I don't see how this will be possible if I have an increased risk of breathing particulate matter in the air, not to mention putting my future grandchildren at risk. That will be very irresponsible and frankly callous. This is a potential health hazard for anyone living near a quarry, let alone anyone with any sort of breathing condition. The economic impact would be that I would be forced to sell my home and incur moving expenses associated with the sale of a home, such as realtor commissions and closing costs. I'm also concerned that I will not receive payment for the current value of the home due to the depreciation caused by the quarry. I believe property values will decline, making it difficult to sell my home and receive proper compensation, which will be outweighed by the expenses and difficulties I will be subjected to. I will also incur more medical costs as my health and that of my family deteriorates. During the winter months, the wind occasionally blows from the northwest, often with high gusts. During those times, our home is directly downwind from that crusher site. I request to be added to the affected persons list.
Thank you. All right, want to hand it down to anyone over here?
I'm gonna go next.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Ana Rivera. I too live at 600 Solms Forest at the Copper Ridge community. We are approximately about 4 miles from the current proposed quarry rock crusher. And as my husband stated, our home is mostly affected during the winter months from the downward wind and everything that will be carried from the Vulcan Quarry activities. As my husband stated, in 2017, my family and I moved to Copper Ridge in search of building our dream home and our final place where my husband and I could enjoy retirement after several duty assignments over the course of his 29 years of service. Part of that was in search of obtaining a healthier lifestyle and to avoid further deterioration of my husband's physical health. Alongside my spouse, I also have medical complications involving limited breathing capacity. In 2013, I was diagnosed and treated for a life-threatening condition known as pulmonary embolism, stemming from the surgery I had. For those who actually survive this, it is estimated that 30% of those diagnosed with this condition die within 1 month, and of those, 33% will have a reoccurrence within 10 years due to specific risk factors, one of those being exposure to environmental contaminants and pollutants. There has been evidence found through multiple studies that long-term exposure to polluted air and its matter, whether it's 10 to 2.5 micrometers or smaller, is associated with changes in blood coagulation and a risk of deep vein thrombosis, which can lead to pulmonary embolism. This scenario can cause serious complications, especially in vulnerable people like myself with a history of pulmonary embolism and mild lung damage. Studies further show that when air pollution reaches unhealthy levels, which is an AQI of 101 to 150, susceptible people like me are strongly cautioned to reduce risk by avoiding outdoor activities. The quarry will severely impact me and my family's quality of life and potential life expectancy. It is important to consider that I will not be able to do the things that I love, such as gardening, cycling, hiking, and participate in activities offered within the surrounding community that add to my healthy lifestyle goals. The hill country is known for its beautiful landscape and cleaner air. Part of my treatment is to remain physically active, thereby increasing my chances of not suffering another life-threatening issue. I would like to continue living an active lifestyle without worries of potential hazards resulting from the quarry and possibly or the need to uproot my family and find another home. Sorry, I lost my place. I look forward, I am saddened by the thought that my family and future generations would be potentially exposed to increased carcinogens in the near future by an addition of yet another quarry. Allowing Vulcan Quarry to gain approval to move forward with their plans sends a strong message to the citizens of this and surrounding areas, as well as future corporations like Vulcan, on whose rights are actually being sought after and who's actually being represented. Like my husband stated, some of the financial burdens that we will incur are increased medical bills should we be forced to stay, the depreciation of our home value if we are actually able to sell, if we need to uproot and move, as well as financial burden for my private practice as a licensed professional counselor, in which I serve New Braunfels and the surrounding communities. I thank you for your consideration.
Anyone over in this section?
Good afternoon. My name is Maureen Cartledge, and I'm also representing my husband, Robert. We live at 5511 Arroyo Luis. That's Arroyo, new word, Luis, and that's in Bulverde. We moved to this area to enjoy country life about 18 years ago, and we live on approximately 18 acres of undeveloped land, except for where our house is. I suffer from sleep apnea, and so does my husband. Our sleep can be further disturbed by noise, dust in the air, and bright light. We have built a 4,876 square foot home, and I'm concerned about the damage to the foundation from blasting. We have a well which provides all our water, and I'm concerned about how the water quality, the water table, the well pump equipment, and the reliability of enough well water may be negatively affected. We also have a septic system, and I'm concerned that it may be negatively affected. One of the great pleasures we enjoy on our property is the wildlife, which will very negatively be affected by this quarry and the related dust, noise, and lighting, which will diminish the pleasure that we have from living here. Lastly, I am a backyard amateur astronomer, and my enjoyment will be very negatively impacted by significant light pollution this quarry will bring to the area. Thank you very much. We request to be considered as affected persons.
And how far are you from the quarry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Approximately 4.5 miles.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brigitte Dial, Brigitte, and the last name is Deyle, and I'm speaking also here for my husband, Gail Dean Dial, 26-year Army disabled veteran. Again, like many, I've heard from many, we moved here so that we can enjoy retirement and have lots of outdoor activities such as gardening, biking, running, hiking, and whatnot. And we are thoroughly disappointed that this might not come true. My husband has asthma and is therefore very susceptible to air pollution. And even healthy people probably should take note of that the carbon monoxide will actually prevent from the oxygen to be delivered throughout the body into your lungs or into your heart, and there are multiple diseases that can come from that, as many others have stated before me, so I don't really want to get into that. I'm also a retired teacher, and I see this all the time. The kids have problems, especially if we're talking about having an elementary school there. The kids are running outside, they're playing, they will breathe more deeply, and they will get more of the carbon monoxide as well as the particulate matter into their lungs, and that is not healthy. Again, we have moved out here for the quality of life, which we are now disappointed to see that might not come true. We are also concerned about the loss of property, like others have stated, the houses with acidic rain that can fall onto our roofs, metal roofs, dry deposition of materials that will corrode the materials, the rock and whatnot. So this is personal loss, as well as the loss of the resources such as water, which will be filled with, can be filled with the aluminum particles that can leach out of the soil due to the various nitrogen oxides and there are effects, not just to us, but also environmental effects. Lastly, I was looking at something and I was hearing everybody stating that they are wanting to be affected people or person status like we are now trying to do, when I am not quite clear, because the Texas Clean Air Chapter 3A2 actually puts the state, the TCEQ, in charge of protecting people like us from exactly that. And if I may read that real quick, it says, policy and purpose for the Clean Air Act is that the state, the policy of the state and the purpose of this chapter are to safeguard the state's air resources from pollution by controlling or abating air pollution and emissions of air contaminants, consistent with the protection of public health, general welfare, and physical property, including the aesthetics, enjoyment of air resources by the public, and the maintenance of adequate visibility. It is intended that this chapter be vigorously enforced, and that violations of this chapter, any rule or order of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, result in expeditious initiation of enforcement actions as provided by this chapter. So, I guess I am requesting that, like others have said, if this is all built on a model, why are we building this on a model when we are really supposed to take data to make decisions like that? So with that, I please would like for you to consider my husband and I as affected persons in this matter. And I thank you for your listening.
And how far are you?
We are 4 miles away. Thank you.
My name is Claire Loomis, Loomis, and I own property at 1010 White Fork in Bulverde. And when I figured out using a map feature yesterday, my property is 2.5 miles from the current location of the rock crusher. I'm distressed that there's so many unexplained measurements in our discussion this morning of the location of the rock crusher, its potential for being relocated, the recognition of that yellow line, that 1 mile circumference around the current location. If a rock crusher is moved to the 8 o'clock position on that yellow circle, my property will be within 1.5 miles, plus or minus a few decimal points, of the crusher. I think a couple questions that were brought up this morning have never been, I think, fully addressed. My neighbor who I'm with today, Mr. Bill Byerly, raised the question of the footprint of the rock crusher, because this is not just a 20-foot square machine. It's got a big footprint, and that also affects, I think, our measurements from the location of the rock crusher. If Vulcan is going to go down to less than 1% of a mile in recognizing a property owner's right to object. The other issue I think is critical is the creation of the opening of the surface of the earth, the blasting, the original blasting which is going to occur. And if that will not occur within the recognized border, sort of the safe zone of the quarry, we've understood that the crusher will have a limited future site, but I'm not sure we're recognizing the potential of the hazards, the air quality hazards, regardless of the noise pollution and the potential pollution of the aquifer below. I have aligned myself with the Stop Vulcan Quarry organization, so I don't know if I need to be recognized today as an affected party, but I certainly feel better about voicing my opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. So you are a member of the
Friends.
Stop 3009? Okay.
That's Friends, AKA Friends.
AKA Friends, it's the same, right?
Stop.
They're all, okay.
All inclusive.
Okay, I'm Jan Figner, and I'm here, representing my husband here at Figner as well. We live in Copper Ridge. We're at 5832 Copper Valley, approximately 3.4 miles from the proposed quarry. So again, not to be redundant, we agree with everything that's being said here. chose to move out here. So again, with these concerns, we'd like to be part of, effective part of.
And can you spell your last name for me?
Yes, I'm going to do that first. F as in Frank, I-C-H-T-N-E-R.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary Trujillo, Trujillo, and I'm here to represent myself and my husband Rick, and his last name is Shimon, S-H-I-M-O-N. We live in Copper Ridge at 5748 Palisades View. We bought our property 9 years ago and decided to retire here. My husband is retired military. He suffers from breathing problems, pulmonary issues, and asthma. And I've had asthma since I was a child, so I'm concerned about that. And I have applied all through the process, so this will be our third time to be considered an affected person.
And about how far are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're 3.8 miles from the current proposed, or 3.4 miles from the southern point.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Saul. Last name is spelled S-A-U-L. I'm here on behalf of myself and my husband Joshua Saul and our 7 children. We live 2.08 miles from the current proposed site of the rock crusher. That 0.08 is 422 feet. Based upon the expert hearing today, it does not appear that Vulcan Quarry is guaranteeing the crusher will remain in that location. Therefore, I don't understand why a 422-foot difference excludes me from being an affected person. I would like to at this time request that we would achieve affected person status.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Esther Scanlon, S-C-A-N-L-O-N. I represent myself and my husband William. We live at 5657 Copper Valley in the Copper Ridge area. My concerns are the particulate matter and the increased truck traffic, the effect on the aquifer, the effect on our property values. And I also would like to point out that Comal County is not such a rural county. It is the second largest growth county in the United States as per the U.S. government statistics. We are growing very rapidly, and we will be increasing the residential population in Comal County by 5+ percentage points every year. So we are not a rural county. We need to be included also in the as an affected party. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, ma'am, how far are you?
About 3.5 miles.
Hello, my name is Lorraine. I'm also speaking for my husband Alfredo de la Riva. It's D-E space L-A space R-I-V-A. We live at 6010 Creekwood Pass in Spring Branch. We moved from Spring Branch from El Paso, Texas to alleviate allergies and respiratory issues from all the dust and dirt in that city. The proximity of the crusher and particle matter is now a great concern. Because my daughter will be expecting a baby, and she will be moving down here by the end of the year. And so, with the new baby, it concerns us now. Another concern for me is the safety of my youngest son. He attends Texas A&M on the south side of San Antonio and travels Highway 46 and 3009 every day at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school. We are in the transportation business and have firsthand know the increase of big trucks affect the safety of lives and commuters. And lastly, we did come to Spring Branch. We did purchase our land and have our house built. And so now, not only are we afraid of, the quality of life that we'll have, also also the decrease in our home value. So I would like, with that being said, I would like to be considered an affected person regarding of my distance from the crusher.
But how far is it?
3.5.
3.5, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Acklen, that's A-C-K-L-E-N. I live in the property, it's called Skyridge, and it is, my home is about approximately 3 miles from the proposed crusher. I bought the property and the home 17 years ago, and actually there has been a visible difference in the quality of the air, very, very noticeable in that 17-year period. Also, the issue that I wanted to bring up was that in 2008, we all have wells in Skyridge off Beck Road. Did I give you the address?
I'm not sure you did, you gave it, you said Skyridge.
Okay, it's 30370 Beck Road. So everybody has varying acreage there in Skyridge and Beck Ranch. And we all have wells. My well was 650 feet deep. You think that would be adequate? In 2008, it was about March 2008, I came back, I had no water. I called one of the service companies to come out and see what occurred. And they didn't know what occurred. I had to make an appointment then for them to come back out with a special truck to do what's called pulling the well. So they bring out their equipment and they start bringing the drop pipe up out of the ground. It got stuck. He said he couldn't do any more, charged me a nice fee. So then I called the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for water wells because I want to know what occurred. There'd been blasting in the area, and the blasting had occurred just about a month or so, I'm thinking, prior to this event. So I wanted to know what occurred because I figured, my property depended on it. Everybody has to have water. If you don't have water, you don't have real estate. So TDLR came out, they brought a little camera and a little video thing so we could see what occurred. They dropped it down the well, and on the video it showed that the pipe actually collapsed, or the PVC, which surrounds the drop pipe, the PVC, was about 6 inches in diameter, it completely collapsed on the drop pipe. So I could not go down to the well if, I guess the pump didn't work anymore, but I couldn't do anything, so the well is basically inoperable. So I was naturally very upset. Here I have a place to live and I don't have water. So then I'm buying water. I'm having to get truck water to my house. It gets very expensive, and then you don't shower very often when that happens. And that also isn't very great if you plan to have people over. So without water, and then buying water, I was minimizing my use. I didn't mind conserving, but it was, getting a little bit bad. So I had someone I knew put in a rainwater collection, so my roof actually collects rainwater. And thank goodness we can do that in this part of Texas. You can't do that everywhere, but I collect water on my roof. It goes into a special guttering system, which is open, and then it goes to a kind of a submerged tank, and then it goes up to a concrete reservoir. I have a concrete reservoir, about 3,200 gallons, so that water goes in there. And then I actually asked them when they put the little pipe in to leave me about 18 inches from the bottom, hoping that I won't have a lot of particulate matter and sediment that would be drawn into my water supply. So I had that done, and then I have a filtration system, which is cartridge filters and a UV for bacteria. So that's basically what I live on, and if it doesn't rain, I buy water. But the water use is still constricted because I can only hold so much in the tank. The issue I'm bringing this up for is because if mine collapsed due to some blasting, if that's what happened, then here I am. If I want to put another well in, I have to go through all the red tape, which is very extensive when you're a private homeowner, property owner, and you want to get a well. Believe me, there's red tape, and it's about $28,000. So I'm expressing this because you have to have water to live, you have to have air to breathe, and I don't ask for much, but those things are very important to everybody. And if you listen to some of the testimony here with people that are retired, which a lot of us are, I'm retired now, so I'm home more. We really depend on a quality of life. We really depend on that. And if you don't have water and if you don't have air, then what do you have? So the problem again with sediment and any kind of particulate matter, whether it's 2.5 or 10 or whatever it is you can't filter it out. It's too small. My filters won't take it out. It's going to collect on the roof with the rain. It's going to go through my whole system, which is kind of a complicated system. There's 3 other property owners in my neighborhood that have rainwater collection. They depend on it, but they have wells as backup. But this is my sole source of water. So yes, it is an issue. It is a health issue. And as she mentioned about traffic and so forth, that's another thing. Yes, health and safety on the roadways. I've already seen an unbelievable amount of traffic on Highway 46, 3009, and 1863, which is the former road I live off of. So yeah, that is a health and safety issue. When you have gravel trucks and different things moving in and out down those roads and the way they're driving, it's frightening. It's really frightening. It's changed the whole landscape of Comal County. And that's just something I needed to put in there because everyone wants a quality of life, and I think we all deserve that. Thank you.
Finally. Sorry, I'm sick. My name is Michael Maurer. I reside on family land, which is the Emerald Green Estate. It is the land that surrounds the high school, and that is the birth lies about 3.5 miles more or less from the site. From the crusher, and my house actually sits probably about another 3/4 mile past that. So I'm somewhere in the 4.5 mile range, more or less, give or take a few hundred feet. And I mean, this is a real mockery of justice here because we have the TCEQ, like this other woman stated. They're supposed to protect the air quality and the water quality. But Comal County has become a dump site, especially western Comal County, because of all those sewage treatment facilities and the air permitting stuff that's being permitted in western Comal County. And the sewage is going to be partially treated sewage. It's going to be dumped into creek beds that run into either the Robert River or the SOAH. And like the air permitting, they take the maximum. And they almost like cut and paste. They almost like cut and paste the wording. And this is what we're not going to exceed. Y'all, this shouldn't be at this point. Our county commissioners were, it says, great weight for entities objecting. Our Comal County commissioners refused to object, even though they got a lot of emails and a lot of paper documents saying, please object to this. They refused to do so. Comal ISD, when the Liberal Board was on there, they refused also, once they got voted out, they wrote a resolution opposing the Vulcan Quarry. And this is awful, the way I see this. These are gods and kings down here that can make all kinds of errors and assumptions based on modeling that was produced from air monitoring stations 30 miles away. How about something that's more realistic, like 5 miles away from an existing quarry? I want to be in affected party status because I'm not like the traveling public that's going in and out of this area day in and day out. I live here. My wife said, let's move to San Antonio. I said, well, if you want to move, move. She moved out a month later. I'm going to live and die in this house. And I'm going to live and die probably because SOAH, the court, which is like an appointee of TCQ and TxDOT, y'all are just going to go with what they say. It's absurd. It's absurd that I see all these people that are health conscious people that are going to be affected day in and day out by this friends, so to speak, Vulcan. You're not going to be my friend. How about Spencer Valley High School? All those students in Spencer Valley High School, about 3.5 miles away. You think you're friends with them? I don't think so. But they're too young to vote. I mean, flabbergasted that this whole thing is happening. You show me right now proof that that dust will not go past that fence line on Vulcan. You show me right now, and you show me right now, in law, on paper, right now, the law is saying about 2 miles, 1 mile. Don't pick some arbitrary number, or don't say something about how, oh, we've in the past, TCEQ in the past, corruption and collusion. Let's not do that anymore moving forward. It's not indicative of now or in the future. Yeah, let's start afresh, and let's start thinking people and the environment. That includes you too, Judge, and the whole SOAH community. Because people are tired of this. I mean, this is a mockery. I demand, I don't ask to be an affected party. I demand to be an affected party.
Sir, I appreciate your concern, but you don't get to make the demands here. And for the record, I'm not employed by TCEQ. I'm employed by the State Office of Administrative Things. That said, we do have certain laws we have to follow. You can certainly take up with your legislators any issues you have about those laws. So was that it for everybody who wants to see party status? Yes. Yes, you both said. And did you both fill out a form? Okay, and those were the various? That's fine. That's fine. Anybody else?
I forgot to mention that we are now renting the facility 6 months after.
Okay, and I'm sorry, you're,
Married to you.
okay. And just because I don't think that got through, Ms. Trujillo said that they were downwind from the facility 6 months of the year. Is that correct? Yes. Yes. Not yet. So that would be, if the parties would probably be aligned. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't fill out one for my husband. My husband didn't fill out an affected party.
Okay, if you want to, when you're a little later, you can
Just
amend.
add him to mine.
Yeah, just add him to the sheet, because we've got a lot of paperwork here. Okay. Yes, ma'am. You just add him to the form, and you're Ms. Striegel, right? Okay. All right. And Mr. Seal, are you still objecting to all of those parties?
Yes, Your Honor, we'll prepare testimony from tomorrow with a toxicologist to explain our position.
Okay, even the Edward Aquifer, that's a member, or that the Friends is a member of?
Yes.
It's almost time for a break, so.
Yes.
The Friends of Blackmount Creek is a member of the Greater Edgewater Alliance, which is the standard for elected persons for organizations, so as a member. That
Right.
is right, and that's clear. So Your Honor, our association is the, so I guess.
Speak
up. It is, I don't have a, let's see if I can pull that further, maybe a little bit. Your Honor, I guess I missed that. Was the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, are they aligned with Friends of Kamal?
Well, they're affiliated, the Friends of Kamal is a member of Greater Edwards, right?
It is. And Your Honor, I believe the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, the reason that the commissioners denied their hearing request was because they didn't state in their hearing request who their member was that was affected. There was a specific rule on that pursuant to Senate Bill 709 that that's an express requirement. So we would object to their party status because they didn't state in their hearing request who their affected member was. They filed their members' names late.
They filed it late, and where in 709 does it say that that's bar from fixing it?
I can direct you to TCEQ's rule at 30 TAC 55205 B2, and this is with regard to a request by a group or association. Subsection B2 says the request identifies, and this is one of the requirements, by name and physical address one or more members of the group or association that would otherwise have standing to request a hearing in their own right. And the greater